Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really granular, honestly fascinating psychological technique pulled directly from Thomas Alefea's comprehensive book, 12 Steps to a Good Life. We are going to look at a highly specific, very physical trick you can use to unlock a part of your mind you've probably lost touch with long ago. And trust me, understanding this can profoundly change your daily life.
To kick things off, let's look at this profound thought from Lucia Capacchione. She says the discovery of the inner child is really the discovery of a portal to the soul. This perfectly sets the emotional stakes for our journey inward today. Because, we aren't just talking about some self-help cliche here. We are literally talking about accessing the absolute core of your humanity, your vulnerability, and your truest authenticity.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the hidden inner struggle.
So the author introduces this idea of a universal tension that runs through every single human life. It's this invisible weight that drives so much of our behavior. He calls it the perennial struggle, a deep, lifelong inner conflict that shows up as unmet needs, anxiety, and that constant tension between who we actually are and who we want to be. The source text makes a really powerful point here. This isn't some flaw to be cured or a disease to be eradicated. It is just a persistent ache of self-sabotage that we really have to learn to understand and work with, rather than just blindly fighting against it all the time.
Moving right along to Section 2, your fragmented paper dolls. You know how we cope with that lifelong struggle and protect ourselves starting from a very young age? Our personalities actually fragment. The author uses concepts from transactional analysis to show how our psyche divides into different ego states, much like beautifully layered but totally separate watercolor paper dolls. First, we've got the parent. That's the nurturing or critical outer shell that mirrors our caregivers. Then there's the adult, the rational, present-moment decision-maker. We build these two as our sturdy outer armor. But nestled deep, deep inside is the smallest, most vulnerable core of them all, our inner child.
Look at the contrast here. Your dominant adult state relies heavily on logic, methodology, and control. It's the highly organized part of you that gets through the workday, answers emails, and pays the bills. But in sharp contrast, our child state is entirely raw and uninhibited. It's super imaginative and playful, for sure, but it's also anxious and incredibly vulnerable.
Which brings us to Section 3, meeting your inner child.
So here's the real problem. As we grow, we just get so busy surviving that we stop listening to that inner child. We end up burying its unresolved needs for love, validation, and safety right beneath our incredibly rigid adult expectations. So how do we bypass our critical adult minds to reach the child inside? If your adult mind is constantly acting as a strict logical gatekeeper, always analyzing, always judging, how can we possibly communicate directly with our deepest, most hidden vulnerabilities?
Well, the author has a very specific answer for us in Section 4, the Nondominant Hand technique.
This is where the book introduces a highly granular, completely mechanical trick to bypass your adult critical faculties, writing or drawing with your non-dominant hand. Yep, it's that literal. If you're right-handed, you use your left hand. If you're left-handed, you use your right. See, when you write with your dominant hand, you naturally channel adult control, perfectionism, and logic. It's highly efficient. But by forcing your brain to use your clumsy, unfamiliar, non-dominant hand, seriously, imagine trying to write out a grocery list with your wrong hand. You completely strip away that perfectionism. The sheer awkwardness of the physical act bypasses the critical gatekeeper, giving you a direct line to the child's raw authenticity and pure emotional answers.
Let's put this into practice in Section 5, dialogues, drawings, and letters.
The source text doesn't just leave us hanging with theory. It gives us actionable ways to put this technique to work today. You can write unsent letters to and from your inner child to build trust. You can express feelings by drawing images with bright, playful colors, totally free from self-judgment. Or, perhaps the most effective method the author recommends, conducting a two-handed written dialogue.
Okay, so here's how this back-and-forth conversation actually plays out. Step 1, you ask a question or make a statement using your dominant adult hand. Step 2, you physically switch the pen to your other hand and answer that question by writing the reply with your non-dominant hand. And finally, step 3, you tune into your feelings and simply listen without judgment as that child responds. The mechanical duality here is absolutely fascinating. You are literally acting as the nurturing adult with one hand and allowing the vulnerable child to reply with the other.
So why the number 30? The source material actually suggests taking on a 30-day challenge. The author recommends doing a daily drawing or written exercise with your non-dominant hand for 30 consecutive days. This dedicated repetition is designed to truly solidify the connection. It proves to your inner child that, hey, they are consistently being heard and valued.
Finally, let's wrap this all up in Section 6, Integrating Your Whole Self. Ultimately, what is the core goal of these paper doll dialogues and clumsy, non-dominant watercolor sketches? Where is all this leading? Well, it's about reparenting yourself. It's about stepping up today to provide the unconditional love and safety your inner child perhaps lacked a long time ago. And doing that can finally help resolve those persistent emotional triggers that cause you to self-sabotage in your everyday life. This whole healing journey requires us to acknowledge the past without judgment, facing those unmet childhood needs and emotional wounds. Then it requires actively doing the mechanical work in the present using the non-dominant hand technique. And all of that paves the way to our future, becoming an integrated, authentic, and whole self, where the adult and the child finally work together in perfect harmony. I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What will your inner child say when you finally hand them the pen? I really hope this explainer inspires you to grab a piece of paper today, switch hands, and explore the mysteries hidden within your own mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the text, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.